Welcome back to the Torque Test channel. This is the third and final episode of our Tool Truck High Torque series. So far we've tested the best Mac, Cornwell, and Snap-on have had to offer with results all over the place. On the old Cornwell tool truck you can buy an M18 High Torque with performance we're very familiar with and is always a tough competitor to beat. On the Mac truck you can buy perhaps more oil resistant but also more expensive versions of DeWalt impacts with surprisingly similar but in other scenarios different performance. Check out that episode for a Mind F. In our last episode, the new Snap-on CT9080 absolutely laid it down on the dyno, taking the top spot as the most powerful half-inch we've ever tested, bar none. But at $540 bare, or $972 as a kit, that CT9080 isn't exactly living at the top of all of our rank lists. Today, Matco's latest and biggest 20-volt impact hopes to change that. This is the MCL 2012 BIWKG, K for kit and G for green. We've been using it for about a month so that it compares well to the rest of our tool truck high torques, which were also lightly used, but we did purchase it new, and new these things go for an eye-watering $798. That's right, considering we already had Milwaukee batteries, our 1-inch D handle cost the channel less to acquire. Think about that for a second. The tool truck brands are sure proud of their cordless impacts at these prices. But maybe that's for a reason. The last one broke pretty much all of our half-inch records on the dyno, and that was rated at 1440. This MCL 2012 is rated by Matco at 1600 foot-pounds of breakaway torque, making it, to our knowledge, the highest rated cordless half-inch in the world. We don't think it goes any higher than that, but if you find one, let us know. Its breakaway loosening numbers are absolutely insane. It's sort of sneaking in with a cheeky, comparatively conservative tightening claim of 850. Compare that to Snap-on's 1050 and Milwaukee's 1000, and it's definitely primed to be making some points on the rank chart today if it can make those 850 beans. The Matco 20-volt Infinium is big, like proper big, but next to the Snap-on CT9080, looking even a bit small. But that nuclear silo with a handle attached to it, Snap-on makes everything look small. Look at it next to the Mac/DeWalt High Torque, which is also not a small gun. The Milwaukee 8.4 inches makes these others look more like jumbo torques than high torques. Yet at 9.1 inches, the Matco does use its size in a smart way, we think. We're fans of this sort of slant-nosed angle handle design that situates more of its 6.8 pounds over your hand rather than out on the nose. We can't think of too many scenarios where you'd prefer your hand and battery to be closer to your workpiece. Being quite a big gun, every inch helps, and we think more of the bigger chunky guys and brands that make them should consider this. The overall design is nice too. The grip is sort of a little more bulbous and textured, reminiscent of M12 tools that we like. Feels like you have more control of that weight when you're moving it around. And the Matco is the only gun in the group to have those nose lighting for LEDs in this case. The Milwaukee, Mac, and Snap-on all having lighting from underneath, which creates harsh shadows. While being nearest in price to the wallet-whopping Snap-on, that Snap-on, especially next to this Matco, looks sort of more bare-bones industrial than ever, though the Matco does only have a variable speed trigger, no power settings. That CT9080 is of course made in the USA, the Mac is assembled in the USA with global components, the Milwaukee is of course China being TTI, and this Matco is made in Taiwan exclusively for Matco by, I'm told, a company called Techway, a small manufacturer for sure compared to TTI, Black & Decker, and even Snap-on. So curious to see today how the smallest manufacturer with the largest over-the-top specs can do against some of the toughest competition we've ever gotten our hands on. So let's get into that. Our first test is called Working Torque, 5 seconds of forward impacting. Here's the M18 up first. $572. This was only recently beaten, still a very impressive working torque figure. Now for the Snap-on CT9080, shown on screen in black now. $634, a similar curve, but just more torque everywhere. Big boy's got some bite. Now for the Matco, hopefully our dollars were not spent in vain. On screen in green. 610, not too shabby, above the Milwaukee, but still sort of being sandwiched between the two models so far. Reverse is where the men are separated from the boys, however. Here's the snap-on versus the M18 on screen in 10 seconds of reverse, a test called max torque. .770 over 728. Both tools honestly bringing the heat on this one. Now for the newest member of the TTC Impact library. Let's see some beans in reverse. .835. 835. Absolutely monstrous power. Not only is that a record in this test, up until we had the snap-on, that would have been a record overall among any length of test. And another thing the Matco has up on the rest of the high torques in today's testing is the wrist breaking action, or lack thereof. The 7.5 rating of the Milwaukee was recently kicked up a notch by the snap-on to 8.5 because it'll shake the Holy Ghost out your body. But the Matco is on another end of the spectrum. It gets an admittedly subjective but well-earned, we think, 5.5 out of 10. Sort of wiggles around, but no thrashing, no pushing back or heavy arm-numbing action that we're used to finding on high torques. Only the Flex high torque with its shock shield design has earned better than that. Really a tool that, despite climbing into the 800s with ease so far, wouldn't really make you feel like it's doing so compared to the others. Our final test is here though. Best case scenario, batteries fresh off the charger, and since we want to give all these tools their best shot in this one, the M18 is going to be shown here with an HD 12.0 battery since both Matco and Snap-on don't offer those big Chungus batteries. Here's the Snap-on versus that. .869 versus 801. That HD 12.0 causing things to snug up and tighten real quick for the Milwaukee, but once it is tight, the size and hammers and the spring and motor of the Snap-on are just able to make more meaningful impacting after that. Last up is the Matco. So far it's been loving reverse, so this reverse, best case scenario, should be a good one. .894. Okay, basically 900 foot-pounds from a half inch. I know you guys are used to seeing numbers well into the thousands on boxes and brochures, but we are not used to seeing anything like that on the old bean counter dyno. Heck, even cresting 800 like the M18 did here with an HD 12.0 and up until recently had only really been done by two other tools. The Snap-on though, some super impressive low dynamic and mid-range power. We'll have to see where the rank chart places these two tools now that the dust has settled. Starting below the Snap-on and Milwaukee for now, the Matco's test runs are turned into points as 61, 84, and 89. At 9.13 inches long, she's a big girl, but also made plenty of beans. That's 97.9 foot-pounds per inch, a record among cordless half-inch impacts. Matco is sort of sneaky and only rated tightening for 850, despite its insane 1,600 foot-pounds nut-busting claim. We do tightening on this channel even in reverse, so that's 100 points for full marks here. $460 is what this tool sold for bare when we purchased one. That's pretty up there for a tool even without a battery included. That's 29.2 points, not very high. That totals 461.1, or enough for second place overall, finally bumping down the AirCat Vibrotherm with its very easy to break trigger and nearly taking top honors here. But that's not all. Snap-on's currently perched atop our average power rank chart, which is purely by power across the run and could care less about things like money. The CT9080 is ranked first among half-inch high torques with 696, and the Matco scores $696 as well. Yes, they tie here for first. The two hugely expensive, hugely huge tool truck high torques, the Snap-on and the Matco, tying things up here. The Snap-on bringing just enough low-end and mid-range power to make up for the late peak gains by the Matco. At the beginning of this series, we felt the options from the tool trucks were sort of ridiculously priced, and after the performance we saw today, we sort of still feel that they're pretty expensive, to be honest. But if you want the absolute biggest bruisers out there, these things will bring the beans. And considering how comparatively mild the Matco is to handle, the lighting it brings and the way it disguises its weight in the hand, and all that from the smallest manufacturer of the bunch, some impressive stuff, you have to admit. We've seen countless forum posts and Facebook comments saying this and that about my Matco gun is more powerful than Milwaukee, and others saying, no, it's not, they're about the same, I've tried them both. Heck, even Snap-on came out with the CT9080, dubbing it the Milwaukee killer to try and quash that sort of discussion. But we think if there are enough people who really own both of these tools long enough to compare, there wouldn't be so much of a debate. Check out this great clip from For the Love of Tools channel, where he compares the Matco and Milwaukee on big rig lug nuts.
Battery life. We're going to be using a gear wrench, 1 5/16 socket, to be taken off a lug nut. So we're going to use the Matco first, then we're going to use the Milwaukee, and we're going to jump over to a different lug nut. Put this on there, and let's let her rip. All right, so it took a little bit longer. So as you can see, both the Milwaukee and the Matco had no problems taking these off.
The data with us timing it is showing that the Matco does the job almost 2 times as fast, but in person, for one reason or another, it seems close or a slight edge of one over the other. That's one reason we used this for around a month first and used the CT9080 while it was here as well. They do in person, especially in forward where it's not even as close, feel more powerful than Milwaukee high torque and an 1894 Thor. But you'll have to have the cash to make that kind of splash when it comes to your Honda crank bolt. Appreciate you joining us on this tool truck high torque series. We're working on plenty more new series in the works for you in the future. Click subscribe to stay tuned for that, and thanks for watching.